I'm going to take you through a pastel project using both the pastel pencils and the pastel blocks, so you'll get a really good feel of how those two mediums can be used independently and together on the same piece. First off, I'm just going to take the titanium white pastel block, put in a vague outline for our composition. We're going to draw some kind of snowy hills with a beautiful winter sky above them. What we're going to do is like make the use of a composition where the horizon's quite low on the page, so the sky becomes really prominent, but we'll just, nice and simple, let's put a couple of hills in like that there. Then we're going to take our dark blue, which is actually a dioxazine purple. I never know if I'm saying that one right, but what we're going to do is start rubbing that across the top edge of the paper on its side, nice and gently. Before I start blending anything in, I'm going to pick up the Prussian blue and really start rubbing the blue into the page. We're going to work up a really nice gradient here. That's the idea of this. That's what pastels are really great for, is making lovely gradients. I thought that's what we'll do with a beautiful gradient sky. I'm adding the blue on there, and then as it comes towards the bottom of the horizon there, add a little yellow, Naples yellow, this one we're using. Just going to drag that around the top of the hill there, and then we'll add a bit of white on top of that as well. As soon as you start adding white on top of the pastels, you'll see it starts blending together as well. Okay. Now what we're going to do now is just start blending this. You can easily use your fingers, just rub and rub and rub them over the paper. You can take a paper stump blending tool and use that. Both will have the same effect, but I think just that initial thing of getting the pigment into the grain of the paper, the paper stump is a bit more effective than your fingers. So I'll just roughly go over all of that. But to smooth out the whole gradient, I'm going to revert to my fingers. What I want you to do is keep layering this. Let's get it really intense. With the lovely deep purple at the top, and lighter, brighter blue below that, which is going to take us down to the paler area at the bottom. See how easy and quick it is to get quite an effective background laid down pretty quickly with pastel blocks. Right, I might just lighten the sky up at the bottom here with the white, and probably add a little bit more of the Naples yellow as well, where the sunlight's just glowing. Right. Well, that's a good starting point, I think, for the rest of the drawing. Right, let's start adding some white to the snowy hillside then. Just again using the side of the block to cover that area quickly. Let's put the white right over everywhere there. Then we'll use the other colours, just add a little bit of tone to the snow, because obviously it won't be purely white as much as we'd like it to be. So I'm just going to add in a little bit of blue there for a bit of shadow. Where the two hills join, we'll have a bit of blue again. And down towards the foreground, so the light's coming from behind the hills, so this area down here is going to be a bit darker. We'll add a little bit of the Naples yellow here as well. Just also is going to give us a little bit of brighter light on the top of the hill. So again, we'll just start blending that in. I'll use the paper stump. Great thing is we can keep going over the top, you know, until we're satisfied with the tones and colours that we've achieved. Okay, there's the basic tones that we need. I'll blow and get rid of the dust. Okay, I'm actually going to pick up pastel pencil now. I've got a sepia here, which we're going to use to add in shadow and a bit more detail. I'm going to put a little track in around the side of the hill here. So we use the sepia there to draw the shadow from that track. Line round there, and then final one just round the side of the hillside. The great thing about the pastel pencils is you still get the same qualities as a pastel, except you can get much fine detail, and it's a lot easier to control where you're putting your marks. I'm going to switch back to the white here again and just add that around the lip of the track there, and building up the shape. Okay, I think we'll probably need a bit more yellow amongst those tracks, and we'll just add a little bit more shadow below the tracks, which will just blend really nicely in there. There we go, and start to see the tracks emerging there into the snow. And take the white pencil as well and just add a bit more detail with that. The line of the hill starts up there. We'll make sure it's nice and bright. And then add a little bit more brown shadow in. I'm just going to add a little touch of blue to that, just so it's not too brown. And then give it a bit of a blend. Okay. So you can see this hill starting to take shape here. I'm just going to rub the white over the top of most of that. I really like adding white to gradients. It just kind of brings all the colours together beautifully. There we go. That'll rub in with fingers. Nice and smooth there. I'm going to work my way upwards from the hill, so try not to bring the blue back down towards the horizon there, and I'll probably just add in, just to make sure, a bit more white and a wee bit more Naples yellow. Okay, I'm going to blend that upwards using the paper stump. And then a finger. If you're finding that your fingers are too dirty and they're affecting the colours that you're smudging about, then just give them a wipe on damp cloth. Okay, next thing is we're going to add in the tree using our sepia pencil, more or less halfway up the far hill. And it's just going to be, you know, it's winter, so there's not any leaves on the tree. It's probably a bit wind blown because it's on the fell side on its own. So, a bit raggedy. And jaggedy tree there. Okay, it doesn't look like much yet, but we just need to add some shadow and perhaps some snow onto the branches. Okay, so I'm going to use the black pastel pencil here to add some shadow in, carbon black. I would always recommend using a craft knife to sharpen pastel pencils rather than a pencil sharpener, which eventually ends up just blunting because of the way the formulation in the pastel goes. So to make things easier, I'm going to use our sharpening stand here. So I'm just going to start running the blade of the knife along the tip of the pencil, and you can see it's really simple to do. You just gently run the knife along. See how that's making us a lovely point at the end. And just keep rotating the pencil with my spare hand, and I'll keep doing this until we get the desired point. There we go. So I've got a nice fine point there, and we're going to go into the shadows of the tree. Just move that out of the way. Remembering, of course, that the light's coming from behind, so the shadows are going to be what we're going to see on this right-hand side of the tree. So I'm going to go underneath the branches, adding some shadows there. And I'm also going to add a bit of shadow coming from the tree itself onto the hillside. I think possibly to make the hillside a little less barren, I might put a little shape here where maybe there would be a hedge or something like that, but it's also covered in snow, so we'll add a bit of white to that area. We'll bring the shadow back in with the black, and then also take in a little bit of blue pastel just so the shadow's the right colour. And then we must put a bit of snow onto the tree itself. That's a pretty heavily laden tree, but it gives the idea of a cold winter's frosty day where the snow hasn't melted off the tree itself. Maybe we've gone a bit over the top, but we can just simply go over the top with the sepia and the black until we're happy. Right, I'd say that'll do for now. We'll take our paper stump and just blend this in. Great thing about paper stumps is you can get, to get that point in when you can't get with your finger. It just allows us to add some shading. Right, that bit there is going to need a bit more white because that's where our light's coming from. That brings out the shadow a bit more. Now what we need to do here, I think, is just add a bit more detail into the sky. First of all, the white pencil, we're going to add a few little clouds, thin lines of clouds that you sometimes get in the evenings. Okay, we can add as many as we like here, but obviously don't want to go overboard. So there's a few clouds. or the first markings, I should say, of a few clouds. A little bit of magenta here at the bottom of the cloud, just to bring out kind of the glow from the sun. We'll blend this in a minute so it's not just a line. Possibly add a little bit of, there we go. Using the corner of the Naples yellow, I'm just going to run that over the top, or just into the pink lines a bit. Make a bit more natural colour there. Right. I'm going to take our paper stump again. I'm just going to blend this in a bit. Just dabbing there with the tip of the stump. Yeah. In fact, we can just blend parts of that out, make it a bit more wispy. And possibly to finish the clouds off, we'll add a little bit more white back in. Put some of the yellow. Right. Okay. Possibly we might like to just add in a little bit more texture to the top of the sky here, so I'm just going to use the white. Just rub a couple of areas. Kind of going to insinuate a bit of fluffy cloud going on in the top, higher up in the sky. Just to bring those out, I'm going to take the dark purple again, behind and the lower parts of those clouds. Give it a little smudging with my finger. What I quite like to do is leave some of the marks visible in a pastel drawing, so you know it doesn't all have to be regimented smoothness. I'd say that's doing all right. I'll take a look back, sit back and have a look at the drawing and just make any small minor adjustments that you want to do. I'm thinking probably just lighten that sky slightly. I would say it's all right. A pretty effective winter's day scene using pastel blocks and pastel pencils and a few different yet simple techniques.